Hi, everyone, and welcome to MilSpouse Transition Conversations. I'm Anna Larson, a military spouse transition expert, and your host for today's conversation. Now, education is a game changer for military spouses and our families. So, when the military says goodbye at transition, there's no roadmap tucked into your hand showing you the way to success and happiness, especially when it comes to finding the career, the one that you've been eyeing from the sidelines, just waiting for your shot. Now, I'm going to be a little bit blunt here. Military spouses, it is on us to set ourselves up for success when we transition out of active duty life. And that's why I invited today's guest, Erik Therwanger, founder of the ThinkGreat Foundation. Now, his mission is simple but powerful, making sure that military spouses have access to scholarships and education that unlock doors that lead to careers, stability, and opportunities we've more than earned, both during active duty life and after. So let's dive into today's conversation about why education matters, how it strengthens whole families, and what it says about truly honoring the wants and needs and dreams of military spouses when our community chooses to invest in us. All right, I'm going to pull up Erik's bio here. Now, Erik is the founder of the ThinkGreat Foundation, a business consulting firm, and ThinkGreat, which is a business consulting firm, and the ThinkGreat Foundation, which provides scholarships to military spouses. He's the author of 8 books, and he draws from his diverse experiences as a U.S. Marine, caregiver, business coach, and entrepreneur to help organizations reach new levels of success. His unique approach, blending leadership development, strategic planning, and sales performance, empowers individuals and teams to exceed expectations, both personally and professionally. Now, Erik has inspired audiences across nearly every industry, and ThinkGreat is proudly certified as a veteran-owned business. Now, with that, I'm going to bring Erik up on stage, remove his bio. Hi, Erik. Welcome.
Hello, Anna, and hi, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm so excited to have you on here today. Erik and I had the opportunity to pre-chat before we had this actual podcast.
Yeah.
So I got a chance to learn a little bit more about him. And I think what you do is so inspiring and also just so kind. You really looked for an opportunity to give back to the military community.
Yeah.
And you're doing an amazing job of it.
Well, thank you for that. And it's great to be here talking a little bit more about it. One of the big needs is just getting awareness out there. And so this is going to be a huge help for us in accomplishing our mission and enriching the lives of military and veteran spouses through scholarships and helping them with their educational goals, their career goals. And that's our focal point. So I'm very excited to be here with you today.
Yeah. Now, I'll tell you, you're speaking my love language when you talk about veteran spouses, because one of the things that we're going to talk about today is just how when you leave active duty life, a lot of times those benefits that you used to have available to you are no longer there.
Right.
So this is why it's so important for organizations like yours that are offering this to also veteran spouses to help continue that progress, even outside of that active duty life.
Yeah.
So should we jump into it, Erik?
I am ready to jump in. I've got my
You're ready?
I've got my shoes on. I'm ready to jump. You just tell me how high.
I love it. All right, I got you in the hot seat right now. And I want to start with our first question that we have today, which when we talk about military spouses, it's really important to remember there's a big difference. We just discussed this a little bit, but there's a big difference between being an active duty spouse and then being what we'd call a veteran military spouse. It's the support systems, the benefits, and even the day-to-day expectations that really shift dramatically. So my first question is, from your perspective, what are the differences that you see in the needs of active duty versus veteran spouses, especially in building careers and financial stability?
Yeah, it's a great question. And we specifically opened up our scholarship application to both veteran spouses and active duty because they both have that desire to grow, to develop, to chase their dreams. And what I feel is one of the biggest differences, and it very much aligns with veterans, when we get off of active duty, it's interesting. You're in that environment. You're in that military environment. You might live on a base. You might live in a military community. So you're very inundated with it. And even though it's challenging and it's sometimes tough having Big Brother, around you all the time, all of a sudden you're out and then he's not there. And there's that feeling of being alone. and on
Mhm.
your own. And I think one of the biggest differences is for the military spouses on active duty, they have that sense of community and they have a faster access to more resources. They could go shop at the PX and they're surrounded by other military spouses. And so there is this underground network, if you will, where they're communicating with each other and they're sharing and they're helping. And there's an appreciation for the challenges that they face. I feel that with the veteran spouses, once they leave that base environment or that active duty environment, it they're just blending in. Somebody might not even know who they are or that they did 20 years of PCSing with their spouse. And so I think that they can often feel alone. And they also have less resources available to them. Even a year after active duty, the military one source, I believe it's a year, only lasts for about a year. So they can tap into it as a veteran spouse, but then that goes away. So I think that it's very important for the active duty spouses to pursue scholarships, to build the careers, especially as they move around, to make their relevancy in the workplace even stronger by pursuing education. But also on the veteran side, once they get out, we have plenty of spouses that once their service member spouse isn't serving anymore, now maybe they've gone 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and they have to get that desire back to go back to school. And that's why the scholarship side, helping them to afford that, is so important, because many of them might be restarting their education years after they had started it. You've seen
Yes.
that's so most of them have started education, but so many of them don't finish it.
Yeah, Eric, what you're saying is so true. I can't tell you the number of spouses that 1 year right after transition, they're
Yeah,
barely keeping their head above water trying to
that's
figure out
right.
what's what in terms of what life looks like outside of the military community. And it
That's right.
might not be for a year or 2 years or even 3+ years when they
Yeah,
finally say, okay, now I can focus on myself for just a minute and figure out what I need to either help financially contribute to my family or to capture those dreams that I've had for all of these years while we moved around
yeah,
the world following military orders.
that's right.
And at that point, exactly what you just said, the benefits are gone. And now
Yeah,
you're looking for help. And that community you've always relied on is saying, I'm sorry, you're no longer eligible to be
right.
part of us. And
That's
that's
right.
so it is lonely. It's a very lonely feeling, I think, for veteran spouses, especially if they're not living within a military community. But even
Right.
within the military community, then there's a sense of you don't belong still.
Yeah. By the
It's
time you by the time you figure out how to adjust a military life, and then now you're at the veteran spouse stage, and once you figure out how to make it all work, it's gone. There's a huge learning curve, but yes, to your point, it's very important, I think, for active duty to pursue education from the standpoint that if they are in a constant flux of PCSing, the irony is that they may end up in a new duty station environment in that city or town or state. And when people find out that they're military spouses, as we know, sometimes they hold back on some of the jobs that are available to them because they know they're going to be leaving. And so getting
yeah.
that higher education or some sort of certified program under their belt, they become more relevant in the workplace. And then for the veteran spouse, there may be a number of years of gaps in education, and we want to inspire them that, hey, you may have lost a lot of the resources as an active duty spouse, but you've gained ours. And that's important for us, is to get the word out there and let them know that we are another resource, another voice for them, and that we can help them out.
I love that. Yes.
Mhm.
What you're saying is so very true. Even active duty spouses moving from place to place, if you start a program at your local community college, you're not going to be there long enough to finish maybe some of those program degrees
Yeah,
or
right.
those even certifications.
Yeah.
And so it is so important to be able to say, hey, this is transferable. This is
Mhm.
going to be available no matter whether you have to PCS to Hawaii or you're going to be living in Japan, right? You can still
Right.
access these pieces of education and then apply it towards
Yeah.
a career or whatever it is you want to do with it, right? Because
Well,
career isn't always an option.
and we wanted to open it up to anybody. And our whole criteria is, as long as you were married during the time of service, then you were a military spouse at one point, and that's good enough for us. That means you've experienced the challenges of military life. So sometimes we've had people apply for scholarships that their spouse is no longer with us. Maybe they didn't make it back from service, or maybe they died after service, or maybe they're divorced. But it doesn't alter the fact that person married someone who was serving, and experience the challenges. So when we wrote our bylaws for our foundation, we made sure to include active duty, guard, reserve, like you said, veteran, any spouses, any branch. And that's what we focus on. And the best part is it doesn't have to be a 4-year university or a college. As long as it's an accredited program, we've had people apply for certificates in cosmetology or plumbing or anything.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things we did realize, that sometimes people have done 20 years of PCSing. They're out of the military life and they're like, I don't want to go back to a 4-year university, but I would like to improve my life. So we expanded it to accredited programs so that can apply to everybody. And we've had a lot of people go through, and the great thing is some of the scholarships are enough where they can cover that whole accredited program for them. So that's just
Yeah.
our way of giving back and really acknowledging that it's a tough life, not just for the service member, but for the spouse as well.
Yeah, you really lead us into kind of the second thing I wanted to ask you about, which is about higher education. And when I say higher education, let's rewrite that and let's just say education in general, because you
Yeah.
are correct in saying that certification programs, whether you want to be a plumber or you want to be a
Yeah.
professor at a university, it doesn't really matter, right? It's
Yeah.
education that becomes a critical piece for a
Yeah.
military spouse. So
That's right.
when you were deciding, hey, what do I want to create a foundation around? What was it about getting an education that you thought was such a critical piece for military spouses?
It's so great because we really struggled on the exact topic to come up with it first. There's a lot of people that start foundations, and there's so many people that want to do something for the military, the veteran community. And so when my wife and I sat down and we said, we want to do something for the military, and her old man was a Marine, my brother was in the Army, we have military in the family. So we wanted to do something. And then I started to, as a coach and in my business, my consulting company, I started to go around the country, and I was working with different military commands like the Air National Guard or the Marine Corps, and they would bring me in and I would attend and speak at these family readiness programs. And I would do goal setting. And what would happen is after I was finished, the spouses would come up and they started sharing all of their goals, all of their dreams, their aspirations. And some of them wanted to write books, some of them wanted to start a business, some of them wanted to get a degree. And I was so blown away at just how ambitious and how passionate they were. And so my wife and I, after attending a number of these, because she came to some of them with me when I would do some goal setting training seminars, we just said, okay, we've narrowed it down. We want to help this spouse. We were locked in. And then we said, all right, how do we help the spouse? And we realized there's so many things that need to be helped and supported. And we literally had dinner one night here in Minnesota with a Marine Colonel from the 9th Marine Corps District. And I was about to do training for the family readiness program for his command the next day. So we went to dinner with him and his family readiness officer. And I told him, I said, Colonel, here's where we are. We want to help out spouses. We just don't know the exact niche. And he said, without missing a beat, he literally put his fork down. He says, help them with their education. He said, get them scholarships, get them back to school. He said, it'll help build their self-esteem. They're going to be able to provide for their families. And he just listed off so many benefits. And the family readiness officer, she was like, yeah, that makes sense. And so right there at that moment, that's when we decided we're doing scholarships for military spouses. And the interesting part is I was eating in a restaurant called Red Rabbit here in Minneapolis. And Red Rabbit is an Italian restaurant, absolutely amazing. And I know the owner very well. I've worked with his team. The next day I went in to see him and I said, here's what we're going to do for the foundation, scholarships for military spouses. And he said, I'm in. And it was amazing. And that's the reaction that we've had, is bringing to attention that there is another element of the military out there called the military spouse or veteran spouse. And we love that we're bringing awareness to a community that is often unheard, unseen, and not thought of outside of the military community side. So when we share that we help spouses, military spouses, it's almost like a light bulb goes off and they have this epiphany, like, whoa, whoa, whoa. All these years, I've never thought about that person. And that's incredible. That, I think, is one of the greatest things we do, is bring awareness to the mil spouse community that there's a whole nother community out there that's helping support our military. So yeah, I get very passionate about it.
So do I. I mean, there's four things I want to unpack from what you said. The first one is what you just talked about, which is we are often so tied to our veteran or our service member
Yeah,
service. There's no separation from that. We are not our own entity, right? We
sure.
are the spouse of this person that serves.
That's right.
And I think that tie is both an honor and a privilege, right? As far as
Yes.
military life goes, but it's
Yeah.
also can be an identity sucker, is how I'm going to call
Well,
that.
yeah, I mean, what's the official term? Dependent spouse. I mean, it's like, okay,
Which we do
maybe
not like,
down
I
the
will
road we can
say.
come up with a more empowering title officially. Like
Right.
dependent spouse. You are dependent on that spouse. I mean, it's an interesting title, but yeah, the identity side is huge.
It is. And which is one of the other things I wanted to point out about what you said is you said how this Marine Corps colonel is what I think you said you had
Yeah,
dinner with,
yeah,
how he said it's going to give them self-esteem and it's going to
yeah,
give them confidence. It's going to help them
yeah,
like feel better about who they are and what they can contribute. And I
yeah,
think that is a really big deal when it comes to military life, both active
yeah.
and veteran, because so often we feel
That's right.
lost or without a voice, or we're just doing what the military tells us. And
Yeah,
then after service, it's like, oh, wait, if I make the wrong choice now, it's my fault. And I don't get to blame, in my case, the Army, right? I don't get to blame the Army anymore if something
that's right.
goes wrong. And that's nerve
Yeah,
wracking.
that's right. I thought it was very interesting from the colonel's perspective because he has his troops to look out for. And he felt it was imperative to help the spouse out because that's another way of helping the troops out. And so it's not uncommon. It just made me think of this too. Is when a lot of people ask a veteran or a service member, what can I do to help? It's not uncommon. They say, just take care of my family, look after my family. So we actually provide that aspect too, where I can't tell you how many veterans and active duty service members have thanked us for what we do because they know there's not a lot of attention put on their spouse. So they've been very excited about that because when that spouse's morale and engagement enthusiasm rises, it impacts the whole family. So there's so many positive reasons of focusing on the spouse.
100%. I feel like I'm just over here, like nodding my head up and down to everything that you say. As a military spouse, I appreciate your perspective and that you have this insight into it. And I think that in the more recent years, this conversation has been growing around
Yeah.
military spouses. You
Yep.
hear about spouses more. There's a bigger emphasis on making sure the family, especially with retention numbers and looking at this new style of military that's coming into play now, where there is more of a focus on what is offered for the military spouse and the family
Yeah.
members, not just the service member.
I served in from 87 to 91. It was a different era where they weren't always, they were frowned upon it if you were a young Marine and you went and got married. The support wasn't there like it is now.
Yeah.
And I feel that the support is very important because really the way to somebody's heart is to help their family out. And so we play a small role in that and we're very excited about it.
Yeah, let's jump into that for just a second,
Yeah.
because I would love to ask this question right here, which is now, how does supporting the spouse through scholarships impact the whole family? What is it that you're seeing the
Yeah.
results of this support you've provided? What are you seeing happening within the military community and with military spouses themselves?
I think the biggest thing is having the awareness that this community is there and being able to recognize them for something. There's a lot to recognize them for, but when they're getting their scholarships through us, we actually host an annual gala where we have some of them, even though we award nationwide, we award around the country, we award scholarships to anybody. So it can go around the globe. But locally here in Minnesota, we'll host a gala. There'll be about 250 people there. And we usually take 10 to 12 recipients from that year. And we have them come out, we put them up in a hotel. We have a limo shuttle, pick them and their guest up. We have them walk the red carpet. Everything is there about them. They have gifts. They get to walk across the stage. They get their scholarship awarded to them. People are going nuts over them. And that includes their families too. And so you're right. Most everything, the recognition, the accolades all goes to the veteran or the service member. And I understand that's how it needs to be. But we can also provide that type of recognition to the spouse in our way. And so we make it all about the spouse that night. And it's amazing to see the family get excited to see this person's accolades and accomplishments. And some of them come back a second or third time in a row because they've gotten a few scholarships with us. So we've actually watched them move from student to graduate. And some of them will share their story at our galas. So we basically get to share the podium. We get to share the microphone with them and let their family hear from them and see them up there being recognized. And I think that it's just it's long overdue. And so we get
Yeah.
to be a part of that, earning a scholarship, putting it towards a degree or a certification program, and bettering their lives and impacting their families is absolutely huge. And so I love the recognition side of it that we do, and the awareness for the community.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and honestly, the money that is being provided to these spouses is a huge benefit. Nobody's getting rich off being in the military, right? There's no
No, nobody's figured
there's
that
no
one out
mul-
yet.
yeah,
Yeah,
at least they're not sharing the secret if they have.
that's right.
The financial burden of
Yeah,
going back to school. And when I talk about financial burden, when you look at a family unit, it's not just the cost of tuition and books, right? It's now potentially childcare, time away from the home. What does that
right.
now look like in terms of additional services or support that you need within the home to make sure kids and family members are taken care of
Yeah,
properly? And then the time and energy and effort of the spouse now trying to split their focus, whether they're active duty or veteran, whatever that is. And I'm sure that some of your scholarship recipients are also trying to hold down a full time job
yeah,
while going to
oh,
school.
100%. And the interesting part is if you go by the normal societal standards, at 18 years old, you graduate high school and then you go to college and get your degree or degrees. Well, military spouses oftentimes, because they take a different pathway, by the time they start pursuing that degree, they have families, they have houses, they take a different pathway to get to the degree. So there are some additional challenges of that. So when we are able to help out on the financial side, it frees up money for them in so many other areas so that their family doesn't have to suffer while they're pursuing it. When we used to have different ranges of scholarships, but over the years now we've narrowed it down to we award out $2,500 per scholarship, and they can apply multiple times with us. So if
Hmm.
they're going for a 4-year degree, they can apply all 4 years with us. And that's exciting. It's exciting to see them continue their education and for us to be able to offset that cost, because you're right. You're not getting rich in the military. So when you get out, you're probably not rich. You have a good little nest egg, but you spent a long time building that up. There was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and effort in that. And we've rallied around people who believe in the military spouse community and what we're doing. And that money gets to offset some of that. And that's just awesome to see that happen.
Yeah, I have to tell you, Eric, another thing that I mean just popped into my head is a lot of times when spouses are, especially during transition, when spouses are looking at leaving retirement wise the active duty military life, this is often the same time frame where their children, if they have children,
Yeah.
are just starting college.
Yeah.
And so if
Yes.
there's going to be a who's getting the money to go where, so often that's going to be applied towards the child. And once
Yeah.
again, the spouse is stepping back to say, hey, I'm going to put myself on hold
That's
so
right.
that my kids get what they need at the start of their life.
Yeah.
And so it's
Yeah.
really a beautiful thing what you're doing.
Well, and again, here's a military spouse yet again making another sacrifice where he or she specifically puts themselves over here. And we've even seen it so many times, like the post 9/11 GI Bill. If the service member didn't use it, they were typically utilizing that for their children. There's things that are out there that just aren't available in the quantity it needs to be for the military spouse. And we're very blessed to be able to help fund these scholarships in many different ways and different flavors and help so many spouses out. In fact, we've had so many of them write us afterward and say, I couldn't have afforded school if it wasn't for the ThinkGreat Foundation.
Hmm.
So they just didn't have the money. And then all of a sudden somebody told them about us because we're a grassroots movement. We are part of Military One Source, so we're in there, but we're a great word of mouth opportunity. So that's what we're hoping for all your listeners to spread the
Yeah.
word, because sometimes these spouses have been given a new boost of hope just by hearing about us. And then all of a sudden they go, ooh, I can kick in my dream machine again because now I can afford this class or this school program.
Yeah. You just said words that light up my whole heart, which is kicking that dream program again, because so often
Yeah.
we put that aside to let all the other things that are more, we feel like have to be more important in that
Yeah.
moment. And so you really are building an opportunity for spouses to be able to say, hey, I got to go capture a dream I've always
Yeah.
had.
Well,
Yeah.
many military spouses put everybody else as a priority. It's just a fact. They do. They put their service member spouse as a priority. They put their kids as a priority. They put their families and friends as a priority. Well, we unabashedly put the military spouse as a priority, and they've been okay with that. So they're fine. Yeah, we champion them. And that's why we even feature, as you know, we feature Mill Spouse Monday just as a way of once a week in social media, we post a story about a military spouse with their picture and a little bit of bio about them and just bringing awareness to the community. So I feel
Yeah.
like we're creating a revolution in the Mill Spouse community. That's what we're doing.
Yes, I love that. And if I had
Yeah.
thought about it, I would have had a picture of my Meal Spouse Monday that just went out, which I was so, and that's how we met, was somebody referred
Yes.
me to, or you to me, and then we met. And then the more I learned about your organization, I thought, why in the world have I never heard of Think Great
I know.
before? I feel
And here
like
we
I'm
are doing a
fairly tied
podcast
in.
about it now. How crazy
I
is
know.
that? Isn't that awesome?
Well, now you're going to be flooded with applications, I hope.
Oh, I mean,
Um,
yeah, we want the applications and any of your listeners that would like to be featured on Mill Spouse Monday, please, when you give the contact information, they can reach out. And again, we stay completely truthful and in alignment with our mission, which is not just military spouses, but the veteran spouses. You, as a veteran spouse, we featured you on Mill Spouse Monday. So it just opens up the opportunity because a lot of the spouses that we met, maybe they don't want to go back to school or don't want to get a certificate. They're good to go the way they are. Then we have Mill Spouse Monday just to say, hey, would you like us to share a little bit about your story? And they say yes. You don't even have to be a recipient to be on Mill Spouse Monday. And we've had so much great feedback. And I'll tell you this, Anna, when the Mill Spouse Mondays get posted, it's interesting to read all the comments because so many people are saying, hey, great job, congratulations on this. Or they talk a little bit about what they've done in their career or their philanthropic outreach or what they've done with their families. And people are like, hey, this is so inspirational. And we don't get to hear that from our Mill Spouse community enough. So that we just started launching about 6 months ago. We had the idea, and we're like, you know what? We were inspired by the Gary Sinise Foundation. They do Warrior Wednesday. And so in full transparency, I'm like, well, okay, there we are again, which is awesome. We recognize our warriors. We recognize our service members. And I said, I'm so glad that Mill Spouse starts with an M because we're doing it on Monday. And it became Mill Spouse Monday. And so I shared that with our board and they're like, that's a great idea. And then we have had an influx of pictures and stories coming in. So that part is just goes back to our roots. We want to be a voice for the military spouse community. And I love that you are on our Mill Spouse Monday. I think it's awesome. And again,
I
referred
love it
to as
too.
by another mill spouse.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say, there, being a part of the military spouse community, I can tell you there are thousands and thousands of men and women that deserve to be recognized for
Yeah,
everything that they're doing, both now and in the past and in the future.
yeah,
Tell us about a little bit more about Think Great. You've given us a little bit of information here and there throughout this conversation,
yeah,
but what's your elevator pitch about Think Great Foundation? What do you do? How do we apply? When
yeah.
is your scholarship application
Ooh,
process? Tell us about
okay.
it.
Yeah, when we talk to people, we say, hey, we are in the business of supporting military spouses by awarding scholarships to military and veteran spouses. This is what we do. And our application process, the window is open from January 1st every year to February 28th. That's when the applications can go in. Our website is www.thinkgreatfoundation.org. So people can go there and go to the scholarship program tab. And then on January 1st, it'll open up. They can apply. And then what we do from there is once the window closes, then our board will review the scores of the questions that we ask and also the essays or the essay in there. So they do an essay about 500 words, tell a little bit about themselves. And then our board has the always tough decision to make of, we've got to select the spouses for their scholarships. So we do look to see some of the challenges and hardships that they've faced. And maybe sometimes their military spouse didn't make it back. And we take all those things into consideration because we know military life is challenging. Some face challenges far greater than others. And so we've actually awarded scholarships out to military spouses whose husband, in this case, wasn't with us anymore. And so to the gala, she brought her daughter. So essentially, we're always looking for military spouses to apply and to be part of we call it a movement, our Mill Spouse movement, where we're creating this wave of new thinking for military spouses. So yeah, we're
Yeah.
accepting applications coming up here at the new year till February 28th. And so by all means, you can get on our website, check us out. We're on social media. So we got a LinkedIn page and we got a Facebook page and all those great things. And we're always posting, trying to do a better job of even posting more stories of the things that we're doing and some of the people that are sponsoring us and helping make it all happen.
You talked about the applications when you review them, you're looking at some of the challenges that they face. Would you call this more of a needs-based scholarship, or is it really truly open to pretty much anyone? And if you've got a compelling story, then you want to read about it?
Yeah. It's the application process is open to anyone as long as they say that they were married during time of service. So once they say that, then that's a yes, and they move through to the application process. And then we tally all of the applications and we look to see whether I think one year we awarded out almost 90 scholarships. And
Wow.
then we're just really stacking the deck there and saying, all right, let's look at the challenges, because we can't award every one of them out that comes through.
Yeah.
Even though we tried some years, but we try and look at the challenges that they face. You have some of the ladies that have applied have said things. I've raised 3 kids. He wasn't there for any of the births. It's great marriage. They're still together. There's just this undeniable challenge that they're presenting. We go, okay, we're going to take that into consideration. Then we talk as a board and then we make the decisions, and the best of our abilities, we try and award it out to offset some of the challenges they've experienced and the sacrifices that they made, including their education. It's
Wow.
an emotional process too. It's emotional. A lot
Oh,
of our board members, when they read the stories, they carve out time to just go through and read the essays. And some of them, there's emotional responses. Sometimes you just sit there and you're like, whoa, this story is so heavy. And it's not uncommon. We get to
yeah.
hear firsthand some of their challenges, and we do our part to help them out where we can.
I was just going to say that it's really great that you allow the spouse to tell their story, because they don't get that opportunity very
Yeah.
often, in at least in their own words, and the way they felt about it and how it
Yeah.
impacted them. So often we're told, be resilient, yay, show that strong face, embrace the
Yeah.
suck, right? That's what we're told to do. And we do that for the most part.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to, hey, why are you deserving of this? I think that takes some insight to say, you know what? I've given up a lot as a military spouse, and
Yeah.
it's okay to say that. It's okay to feel like you
100%.
deserve something
Yeah.
to better your life at this point.
And all the benefits and accolades that go to our service members and veterans, I'm all for that. I get it.
Yeah,
I totally
for
get it.
sure.
And they raised their hand, they took the oath, and have paid different prices. I get it. I can go into a store and get a 10% discount on certain things. And then here's some gal that she PCS 17 times and nothing. I mean, so, I don't know. So
No free meal for you.
I'm asking for businesses out there. Yeah, start giving a discount to military spouses too. There we go. We're going to start a real movement. Hearing their stories makes everything real. And I understand. Be resilient, have endurance, embrace the suck. I love that you said that. But then there is the story side, and it's so important to share their story because it inspires a lot of other people. In fact, one of the things we're looking at doing in the future is capturing stories on video for military spouses. And we're looking at doing a program soon to be titled, but it'll allow them to share on video a little bit more about their stories. And it's not only going to be great for all spouses, but even future military spouses, they can check out some of the stories before they head down that pathway. The military spouse community has been largely untapped, right? There's so much talent there. There's so much experience, so much resilience, so many brilliant entrepreneurial and ambitious people, so many great people. And our country hasn't really gotten a chance to get to know them. And that's one of the big focal points, is just being that voice for them and saying, hey, look at this community. We hear about every other community in this country all the time, too much sometimes. And then there's this one we don't hear enough about. So
Yeah.
I'm on a mission. You put a Marine on a mission, I'm going to accomplish it. We're going to get there one spouse at a time. And that's why it's so exciting to be sharing this with you.
I talk to spouses constantly that are looking for support in funding their educational goals, their upskilling, their training certifications. So this is definitely a top of my recommend out list at this point for education.
Awesome.
For sure.
That's
I
great.
so appreciate everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
If you were to give one word of encouragement or advice to military spouses out there that are thinking, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't, what would you tell them to do as your final thought today?
I would say just continue to tap into the dreams that you've had before. And I know from military life, sometimes those get sidetracked or backburnered. I would just say there's people out there like myself, our board, our sponsors, our donors, our volunteers. There are so many people that are just so anxious to help out military spouses, more than you'll ever know. And we want to take the military spouses that want to enrich their lives and match them up with the people that want to make that happen. So I would just encourage you to dream again, continue to set goals in the future, and just know that organizations like ours, ThinkGreat Foundation, we're out there. We want to share your story, and we want to help you to create your new story and hit those goals in the future. And that's what we're all about.
That's so great. Erik, I'm going to pull your contact page up here. So anyone who is not watching, but just listening, we've got on here the website, the LinkedIn page, and the Facebook page. And we always put these in our show notes. So you can click the link to the show notes and go directly to the page. It's going to have all of these linked up, including how to find out how you can be part of MilSpouse Monday, how to apply for the scholarships. Everything will be on the page, all the resources we've talked about, as well as this contact information. So Erik, tell everybody how you want them to come and find you.
The fastest way is go right to thinkgreatfoundation.org. There's a contact us page on there. Feel free to fill that out. It sends it immediately to us, and let us know what you're looking for. If you want to share your story as a MilSpouse, as a veteran spouse, we have MilSpouse Monday, as Anna said. And if you want more information about anything that we're doing, just let us know, and I'm happy to help serve you.
Awesome. All right. So I hope we're going to talk again in about 6 months. And I'm going to say, Erik, how many applications came through? Did it bust your numbers this year? I'm excited to find out.
Yeah, me too.
You are a secret no longer.
Thank you. That's awesome. You are awesome. You are awesome. And I love everything that you're doing for the military and the military spouse community.
Oh, thank you. You know, this is my passion, right? Okay. So thank you everybody for joining us today on this MilSpouse transition conversation. Erik, thank you so much for being my guest today, for talking about just how important education is in general for military spouses, how it can help the family, the contributions to their self-esteem, to financial considerations, all those things that are tied to receiving an education. We, military spouses, appreciate you and your team and everything that you do.
Thank you.
And so with that, we are going to be saying goodbye, and thank you for joining us at this MilSpouse transition conversation, and we can't wait to see you at the next one. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.